I want to thank everyone for coming out this morning under these very difficult circumstances for this family. I want to again introduce Christian Black's mother, Misty Black, her father, his father, Kenya Black, and thank again you all for coming. So first I'm going to start with the coroner's report. The reason why we call this press conference is because we want everyone to see what happened in that jail. The coroner's report, Ken Harsbarger issued a report that said that the cause of death for Christian Black was mechanical and positional asphyxiation. What that means is that he was suffocated to death. From the coroner's report, you will see that there was no illicit drugs in his system. There was just a small trace of marijuana in the system, and the coroner said that the manner of death is homicide. As we know, the Montgomery County Jail has a history of deadly incidents. There's a pattern, a sickness, a failure of responsibility within the walls of the Montgomery County Jail. The problem is a system that has abandoned its obligation to humanity. And that needs to end today. They say a picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, we're going to show you a video of the inhumane treatment and the murder of Christian Black at the hands of the Montgomery County jailers. Attorney Gresham, and we have Attorney Anthony Pearson. Attorney Gresham is going to play the video, and you guys will see, the very horrific treatment of Christian Black.
As I told you all before, we obtained this video from the Sheriff's Department. This is jail video with no sound, so don't expect sound on the video. It's been forwarded to everybody as a part of the press release. Get with me after. We can talk about how you can access it. It's a little bit tricky. But this is what was produced by the County Sheriff's Department.
So it's our understanding that the Dayton Police Department is doing the investigation. Their deputies have body cams. Since they are still in the middle of their investigation, they have not released the body cams. We have done public records requests, and we are waiting for them to produce all the video and all the other things that we are asking for.
Did you all say you need the lights off for that? Okay. Now, at some point, I will be navigating back and forth between multiple vantage points. The way this video works is you can monitor multiple vantage points at the same timeline. So at some point, it'll be easier for folks to see what's occurring, what's going on. So we'll acknowledge at this point, you can see in the video, Christian's having a crisis, and we'll recognize that the law enforcement does have to get in there and find a way to keep him from harming himself. But our issue begins when they go into that particular cell and they ultimately make a number of errors and decisions that amount to what we believe to be deliberate indifference and unlawful use of force. But I'll let the video speak for itself. But we wanted to make sure we were being transparent with respect to what occurred before the interaction with the correctional officers. We believe that earlier in his admission to the jail, there's some interactions between he and other correctional officers and other individuals who may have contributed to his mind state. But we're still investigating that particular aspect, but there is some evidence to support his mental status at the time that they come into that cell. As you all know, the sheriff's office put 10 officers on administrative paid leave. You can count, I think, 9 officers in this particular video, but there's a total of 10 that are involved as well. And I want you guys to pay attention. Once we change viewpoints, we believe there's a nurse from NAF Care, which provides the medical care for inmates that are in the jail. Pay attention to her conduct and how indifferent she is with respect to what's going on with Christian in this video once we change the vantage point, after they put him in the chair. And you'll note the taser nose is still in his stomach at the time all this is occurring. So they tased him and pepper sprayed him in the cell. And our understanding is this, as you can see from the description of this video, it's the post-booked mental health area, room 141. So this is where he would have been placed after the prior incident early in the morning.
You can see he's still talking. And as you're watching this video, I want you to pay attention to the coroner's findings that the positional asphyxiation is what ultimately caused Christian's death. You can see by the pressure that these officers are putting on him, my understanding is that's going to make it almost impossible for him to breathe, in addition to the spit mask and the way that they're holding his neck and his face leading up to this point.
So that's the reason for the coroner's findings of homicide by positional asphyxiation. I'm going to change camera vantage points. To keep in mind, these are all simultaneous. What's occurring with the timeline you just viewed. Now, at this point, Christian unfortunately seems to be unresponsive.
Yeah, he's dead at this point.
Based on his condition, I want you to pay attention to the indifference with which they treat him as a person.
His head is moving up and pulled back because they have his head strapped.
Yeah, but it dropped. He had no control.
Yeah, he didn't have any control. He's not alive at this point.
We believe this woman that you see on the video is one of the NAV care nurses. Jail policy is typically that you have to have a medical professional or staff around at the time that you place somebody in the restraint chair. Up to this point, she was uninvolved in this particular interaction, which we believe potentially is a violation of her medical duty to protect Christian as well.
Look how sharp I'm doing.
At this point, nobody's begun any life-saving medical measures at this point. Nobody's
He
rendered
just
any.
pulled out the taser.
Nobody's rendered any emergent medical aid at this point. Amazingly, this nurse comes back, and rather than start life-saving measures, she simply takes his blood pressure. She's got the blood pressure cuff. This is the decision she makes, is to take his blood pressure. Not conduct CPR, not try to revive him. And those of us who handle these cases know that time is of the essence. When individuals are not getting oxygen to their brain, the longer this goes, the less likely it is to salvage that person and save their lives.
Is she an RN?
We don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know her identity yet. We know it looks like she's affiliated with NAV Care, but we don't know her actual position. There's another nurse that comes in later, who we believe to be a nurse. And this isn't easy for us to show, but we think it's important that the community know what happened to Christian. And we're not trying to hide anything. As you can see, this isn't easy for the family to look at this video and see what happened to him. I just want to wait till it passes a certain point.
Now, this is the first time you've seen life-saving aid.
Yeah, if that's what you want to call it. And so, just for the point of a timeline, they enter his cell at 9:26:01. It's not till 9:39 that he's taken out of the chair. So 13 minutes.
How long he was in the chair before they took him
Yeah,
out?
he got in the chair about 9:30, so he's in the chair for about 9 minutes before they take him out.
Yeah, clearly he's unresponsive, and
After the
he's
first
been
2 or 3 minutes in the chair, you saw it appeared to be unresponsive. So
yeah.
at least 6 minutes in your mind
Yeah.
that he was clearly unresponsive before they took him out.
Too long. And long enough for them to understand that they should have administered some life-saving measures before that point, and they didn't. And candidly, I think they didn't because they didn't value his humanity.
That's fine.
That's enough.
Yeah.
Again, trying to watch up this. We'll make sure we walk you through the rest of the video. You have the full raw data of the video, so you'll have his entire booking from pre-book to post-book, any prior incidents. But this is the interaction of importance. These officers didn't do anything of what they were supposed to do here. They know better. They should do better. We don't have to think any further than George Floyd to know how positional asphyxiation works. These officers know how to conduct themselves appropriately simply because a Christian was acting in a particular manner for whatever reason doesn't give them the right to kill him. They're not the judge, jury, and executioner. And the reality is they need to do better. And individuals who are in the jail are entitled to humanity. They're entitled to safety. And there's a story behind every arrest. It's a human story behind every arrest. And as a community, we need to stop devaluing the individuals that go into our jails simply because they're in our jails.
And currently, these correction officers and deputies are on paid administrative leave. We are asking that they be arrested, they be indicted, and they be convicted for the murder of Christian Black. We'll take questions if you have any.
I mean, Misty, I know that's not the first time you look at that, but each time you look, I mean, what goes through your mind when you're looking at that?
Just seeing him take his last breath. And he didn't have to. It never should have happened. But for me, it's now every time I see the video, it's knowing that I'm gonna see him take his last breath again.
What are we doing about this jail? This is to the point of ridiculousness. You know, they need to change culture. They need to change administration. They need to change what's happening in this jail. There's too many injuries. There's too many deaths. And as a community, this has to stop. I know we have the coalition here. What additional evidence do we need to make a change over at this jail? This man was murdered in front of our eyes. Murdered. You saw the inhumane, the indifference for this man's life. We need to do better. Yes, sir.
My name is Ben Fisher, and I was arrested on a bogus charge. I spent 7 days in jail, and I watched Terry Clemens die. And he absolutely died at the hands of the Montgomery County Jail. They called me out when they seen that I witnessed it. And they came at me, and I told them, I saw what you did. You didn't give him CPR. You didn't call for 911. You did not do the things you were supposed to do. I joined the Montgomery County Jail Coalition. I'm in the Montgomery County Jail Coalition. The police come at me regularly. In fact, since I've been on the news a couple of times, I've been pulled over often for license plate lights and trivial stuff to intimidate me. Unfortunately, I'm not intimidated. When Christian Black died, I told everyone. I actually wrote a letter to the county commissioner, and I said he died of PRCA, restrained cardiac arrest. I didn't see any videos. I didn't know anything, but I knew how he died because I've been in that jail and I've seen. And we've been telling them that. We went to meetings. We have challenged the sheriff. We have challenged the commissioners over and over and over again. And to me, that's like premeditated because you've been told what's going on. You've got death after death after death, which we have brought to their attention on a regular basis, and nobody's done nothing. I believe that Sheriff Streck is responsible for this. He is the governing official over this. Those guys in the county jail are following what they think is a protocol, and that protocol is ridiculous. As you've seen, they did not provide adequate CPR. They did not provide adequate life-saving skills. I've got a guy's head and name in my head, Terry Clemens. I cannot get out of my head. It is a life sentence for me now. So when they come at me and try to bully me for my probation, they added 20 months to it. I'm like, that doesn't intimidate me because for the rest of my life, I've got Terry Clemens in my head, and now I have Christian Black in my head, and Isaiah Trammell. And we are responsible. We must, as a community, hold everyone accountable.
Thank you.
Can you
Thank you.
Can you go through with us halfway through? I saw you, and it was just so difficult for you to be watching that. What are you thinking to yourself?
No sense of urgency. No sense of urgency. No immediate attention to save him when he could have been saved. It was just like I don't know if they were in shock or they didn't think that he was unconscious, but you could clearly see he was unconscious and needed CPR, needed some life-saving skills. There was no sense of urgency.
How long was it before that? It looked to me like the deputy ended up being the one that finally did some part of CPR, but none of the medical care did. None of the medical people seemed to.
Yeah, so I'll let you guys kind of go through the video to get the exact time, but your point is well taken with respect to the medical staff that work at the jail. This isn't just a jail issue. It is a jail issue, but the medical staff that work in the jail are an issue as well. But this is no surprise. NAFCARE has fought, I don't know how many lawsuits they've settled. I don't know how many lawsuits across the country because they provide they're supposed to provide medical care and treatment in these jails and prisons, and they failed to do that on a number of occasions. Look no further than the Trammell case who's been filed in federal court here recently, here in this jail again, prior to Christian's case as well. NAFCARE is on the hook in that particular case as well. And as you look through the video, I want you to pay attention again as you're able to manipulate the vantage points. There's a nurse that's simply standing behind these deputies while all this is occurring. It's her responsibility, or whatever she is, a nurse, an STNA, I'm not sure what her position is, but she's got a medical duty to protect Christian Black as a patient. That's the reason for her being there. That's the reason for the protocol for there to be a medical staff there at that particular time, because these officers clearly don't care how they're administrating these measures. They don't care how they're placing Christian into that chair. They don't care about anything. They certainly don't care about Christian. So her as the nurse, as the medical professional who took an oath, just like us as attorneys take oaths to protect individuals, she should have been more active and made sure that this thing didn't occur with respect to Christian. But I don't want to take the responsibility away from the jail, because this is a top-down issue. It starts and begins with Streck, and it'll end with Streck if the community gets together and gets this guy out of here. This isn't his first rodeo. You know, we are thankful, I guess, on some level that he issued some level of apology to this family, but candidly, it's not enough. Change what's going on over there. As Attorney Wright said, enough is enough. This needs to stop. And it's not a hard solution. Simply treat people like human beings. Honor their humanity. Just because they're in jail doesn't mean they're not entitled to that.
Michael, do you believe anybody could look at that once they kind of had him in the chair and they all kind of stepped back a little bit and not realize he's not breathing or he's unconscious, or not realize there was something wrong?
You saw the video. They should have recognized that very early on. Where's the policies? Where's the training? Where's the proper procedure? None of that occurred in this video. None of it occurred for Christian Black, because had it occurred, he would still be with us today. He's dead because of how they handled him.
And from our understanding, it was hard to obtain this video. So what was our process like to get this video? And then what do you feel like is the reason why they didn't want it to get out? It's obvious, but what is the reason why you feel like they didn't want to release this video?
Well, I mean, credit to Sheriff Streck. He gave us the video he gave us this video. We're still waiting for the audio. We're still waiting for the deputy's body cam videos, but he can't run away from this, you know. Well, the video was going to come out, you know, so we're thankful we have it, because it showed exactly what occurred in this county jail that led to Christian's death.
And then you guys talked about the community needs to call for the removal of some things higher up. What exactly can the community do to support this family, to support this case? What does that look like?
Well, I think everyone needs to show up at the commissioners' meetings. They need to let the commissioners know their displeasure of what's going on in the jail, that there needs to be change. But candidly, you know, we want policy change. You know, I think that this coalition is here because they've been fighting for it for a while, and you know, it looks like there may not have been a lot of progress as it relates to, you know, the training, as it relates to how they are handling inmates within this county jail. So we are planning on initiating a lawsuit once we get the rest of the investigation and the information that we need. However, you know, I don't know what more, you know, does the county, does the public need to see but this video.
Did you want to say something, sister? You don't want to say anything? Okay, I just wanted to make sure, give you a chance if you had anything you wanted to say.
So I want to thank you all for coming out and show this video. This video needs to be played. People need to know what's going on in the county jail, because hopefully that will create some type of change so that this won't happen to anyone else. Yeah, we want Christian to be the last person killed in the Montgomery County Jail.
One other thing that I didn't go over with you, or you guys had mentioned in the release, did you guys also feel, in addition, I mean, there's people all over him trying to get him in that chair, and I understand that, but did you feel like there was a chokehold applied at one point on him?
Well, you saw the video, and there are multiple more angles that we don't have yet because we're waiting for the body cams. But you know, they held his head in such a position that he couldn't breathe. The coroner said mechanical and positional asphyxia. He was put in a position where he couldn't breathe for a period of time that caused him to die.
One officer had his knee in his chest.
Yeah, it's important to understand that these cases aren't just about a chokehold. It's about preventing somebody from being able to breathe. Whoever it is saying, I can't breathe, George Floyd, I can't breathe, he's not being choked necessarily, but as Attorney Wright indicated, you're being held in a position where you can't breathe. It's a mechanical restraint, meaning that there's something unnatural that's keeping you from breathing.
Yeah. If you can't get any air in, you can't even tell people you can't breathe.
Right.
Yeah, and the video kind of speaks for itself. We saw hair pulling, we saw knees, and we saw the positional asphyxiation occur. And I think we need to be clear that this is police violence. This was not an improper use of force. Even though Mr. Black was disruptive, he never punched anybody, he never kicked anybody. Best I could tell, he never scratched anybody. So this is police violence. We need to call it exactly what it is.
And on that note, this isn't the first video that we've seen where there's 9, 10 correctional officers to handle one individual. Can anyone maybe speak to, I don't know if it's frustration or can you speak to that this is not the first time that we've seen that? And though this person might be in distress, should it take that many people? And the fact that those 9 or 10 people, not one of them saw what was happening and stopped it.
Yeah, what I'll say is whether they saw what was happening, they chose not to stop what was going on. And unfortunately, and I'm not going to speak for these correctional officers necessarily. You're going to have to go talk to them if you can get a hold of them, or talk to their boss, Sheriff Streck. But from my view of the video, they clearly had an indifference to Christian for whatever reason, whether they didn't view him as somebody worthy of their care, worthy of their value, worthy of any effort to save his life. But to speak to the point about all the number of correctional officers that it took to do what they were doing, unfortunately, and those of us who do this work in the civil rights arena understand, unfortunately, sometimes these officers and these police officers, it is somewhat of a gang culture. It's a culture that they team up on people, and they have the inability to do what they need to do in a humane way. And they had the options to do that. And we'll talk about that further as this case develops, as litigation is filed. But the reality is this: they chose to treat Christian inhumanely because they didn't value him as a human being. Well, we're here today to let you know that he was somebody. He was valued. You see his family here. We spoke to you previously. You know the legacy he'll leave behind. He wasn't perfect. He wasn't in there for no reason. But he was owed the opportunity for the system to do what it's supposed to do and hold people accountable in a way that he's able to do whatever's necessary to move forward past that. And this kind of reminds me of the case that we had with the Sheriff's Department, several years back, where we had racist sheriff's deputies that were part of the text message case. And when we think about those racist cops that were deputies that were part of that, that was part of the deputies that was part of Montgomery County Sheriff's Department, and then I think about how those individuals, 2 of them were terminated. These were the highest law-ranking officials within the department who led the Internal Affairs Division. Yes, they were terminated. 3 of them were disciplined, and one didn't have any disciplinary measures taken. But when you have those type of people inside of the system, and it's like I've always told people as the president of NAACP, we know that that racism exists in law enforcement agencies. My father was a police officer. He knew that racism existed in law enforcement agencies. So at the end of the day, we will work side by side with Attorney Wright, Attorney Gresham, to deal with this particular issue at hand, and know that the family has the NAACP support, and the family did file a complaint with our office, and we will continue to investigate this and work alongside of our attorneys here.
Thank you.
What's next, Michael? Or how soon you might go to lawsuit? Would you wait until you get all the videos?
Well, we're waiting till we get the videos. It's our understanding that the Dayton Police Department is going to finish their investigation. They're going to give their file to the prosecutor, Matt Heck, and hopefully he will move forward. It's my understanding that because these are Montgomery County corrections officers, Montgomery County deputies, that the prosecutor may send this to another county prosecutor to prosecute this case or to review this case. But we're hoping that that occurs soon, because as you can see very clearly that this was murder, and they need to be arrested, again indicted and convicted because of this inhumane treatment of Christian Black.
Can you expound upon at all on the CPR training that any of these police officers would have had to have?
We're asking for their policies and procedures, and once we get that, we'll compare it to what they actually did.
There was maybe one deputy who seemed to start realizing he was not responding at all and started to check his blood pressure around his neck or see if he was moving at all. Everyone else, though, seemed to just go about their day once it all happened, right?
It looked like that, yeah. It looked like the indifference to Mr. Black. So you're right. No one did anything to help. No one did anything to correct the actions of the correction officers that were right beside them. They just helped. As Attorney Gresham indicated, it was almost like a gang-type response. Everyone kind of just followed in suit, and no one stood up and saved this man's life.
Comment on, do you believe Dayton Police works very closely with Montgomery County Sheriffs? Were they the right agency in your mind to take over the investigation, or should it have gone to Ohio BCI or a different agency?
That's a very good question. You want to answer that?
I think the proper place for it to have gone would be the Bureau of Criminal Investigation. That's a statewide agency. They're professionals. They go all over the state and investigate these things, and they don't have necessarily that close tie that you would see with, Dayton Police Department and the Sheriff's Office. I scratch your back, you scratch mine. That's what we're all concerned about and very skeptical of.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for coming, and continue to pray for this family. Please do support this family. Pray for this family. Pray for our city.
Amen.
Thank you.